Captain Vexistar stared at the scanner display with his three eyes narrowed in confusion. The readings made no sense. His ship, the Silent Current, had been exploring the outer rim of the galaxy for 2 standard cycles, mapping new star systems and cataloging planets. This was supposed to be routine work. Nothing lived out here in the cold darkness between spiral arms. Yet the scanner showed artificial structures on the 4th planet of this unnamed system. Science Officer Kethra, please verify these readings, Vextar said, his voice carrying the slight hiss that marked his species. The Zephyrians had been exploring space for over 3,000 years. They prided themselves on being logical and careful. Strange readings usually meant equipment problems. Kethra floated over to the captain's station, her blue-tinged skin reflecting the bridge lights. She ran the scan 3 more times, checking each reading carefully. Her findings matched the first. Scan exactly. The readings are correct, Captain. There are definitely artificial structures down there. Large ones. The energy signatures suggest active power systems too. Vextar felt a chill run down his spine. Active power meant someone was still there, but no known species lived this far from the galactic core. The radiation levels alone should have prevented any civilization from developing here. Helm, take us into orbit. Science team, prepare for a detailed planetary survey. Communications, scan all frequencies for any signals. As the Silent Current approached the planet, more details became clear. The world itself was harsh and unwelcoming. Thin atmosphere, extreme temperature variations, and high radiation readings. No sensible species would choose to live here. But someone had. The structures were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They were geometric and angular, built from materials that reflected scanner beams in strange ways. Some buildings stretched high into the sky, while others seemed to burrow deep underground. Connecting them were roads and pathways that followed no logical pattern. Captain, called the communications officer, I'm detecting no active transmissions, but there are recorded signals in the data networks. The encryption is completely unknown. Any signs of the inhabitants? No life signs detected, sir, but the power systems are still running. Some of the automated systems appear to be active. Vextar made his decision. Prepare a landing party, full environmental suits and recording equipment. We need to understand what we're looking at. 2 hours later, Vextar stood on the surface of the alien world with 5 of his crew. The gravity was heavy, almost uncomfortable for the Zephyrians. The air was thin and carried strange chemical scents that their filters worked hard to process. The buildings around them were massive. Vextar was tall for his species, but these structures were built for beings much larger than him. The doorways were wide and high. The stairs had deep steps that forced the Zephyrians to climb carefully. These beings must have been giants, whispered Kethra as she recorded everything with her scanner. The strangest thing was how fresh everything looked. There was no dust, no signs of age or abandonment. Automated systems hummed quietly in the walls. Lights turned on when they entered rooms and turned off when they left. Climate control kept the air at comfortable temperatures. It's like they just left yesterday, observed Lieutenant Zixara, the team security officer. They explored building after building, finding the same pattern. Furniture and equipment designed for large, powerful beings. Technology that looked crude and simple, compared to Zephyrian engineering, yet somehow functioned perfectly. Everything was clean and maintained by automated systems that worked with quiet efficiency. In what appeared to be a residential area, they found living spaces that revealed more about the mysterious inhabitants. The beings slept on raised platforms, rather than in the flowing pods the Zephyrians preferred. They consumed food that was prepared with heat and fire, rather than the nutrient solutions that most galactic species used. Look at this, Kethra called from what seemed to be a food preparation area. They actually cooked their meals with open flames, and these containers suggest they consumed liquids that would be toxic to most species. Vextar examined the containers. They were made of processed plant matter formed into sheets. The concept of making containers from dead plant material was completely foreign to him, yet these containers seemed perfectly functional. The more they explored, the more confused they became. These beings had lived differently from any known species in the galaxy. They appeared to enjoy physical challenges that would terrify other races. Their recreational areas included equipment designed for lifting heavy objects, running long distances, and engaging in mock combat. "Captain," Zixara called from across a large open space, "you need to see this." Vextar hurried over to find his security officer standing before a wall covered with images. The pictures showed the inhabitants of this place. They were bipedal, like the Zephyrians, but built completely differently. Where Zephyrians were thin and elegant, these beings were thick and muscular. They had only 2 eyes, positioned on the front of their heads rather than arranged for maximum vision like most prey species. But they didn't look like prey. Everything about them suggested they were predators. Their eyes faced forward for tracking targets. Their mouths contained sharp, white teeth designed for tearing. Their hands ended in short, thick digits that could clearly deliver powerful grips. "They look dangerous," Zixara observed. "Yes, but look at these other images." Kethra pointed to more pictures. "They're caring for small versions of themselves, and here, they're working together on some kind of construction project. They might be predators, but they're social predators. They cooperate." The images showed these beings in many activities. They were building, creating, exploring, and always working together. Even their recreational activities seemed to involve group cooperation or friendly competition. As the day continued, the exploration team found more puzzles. The beings had developed technology that worked, but violated many principles of efficient design. Their power systems were crude but generated enormous amounts of energy. Their materials were simple alloys that somehow demonstrated strength properties that should have been impossible. "Nothing here makes sense according to our understanding of physics and engineering," Kethra reported as they gathered at the end of the day. "Their technology should not work as well as it does. Their living conditions should not be sustainable for any known species. Yet everything functions perfectly." Vextar looked around at the alien colony as the sun set. Lights came on automatically throughout the settlement. Climate control systems maintained perfect conditions. Manufacturing facilities continued producing goods that no one would collect. It was like a vast machine that had been built to run forever, regardless of whether anyone was there to use it. "The real question," he said finally, "is where did they go? And why did they leave all of this behind?" That night, as the Zephyrians slept in their ship, automated systems throughout the colony continued their work. Machines repaired and maintained equipment. Manufacturing centers produced goods according to schedules programmed long ago. Deep underground, massive processors cleaned and recycled air and water. The colony was not abandoned. It was simply operating, without its creators, as it had been designed to do. In the morning, the exploration would continue. The Zephyrians would discover more about the mysterious beings who had built this place. They would find records and data that would challenge everything they thought they knew about life in the galaxy. But tonight, the colony hummed with quiet activity under alien stars, waiting patiently for its creators to return, or for new visitors to discover the wonders they had left behind. Dr. Kethra carefully recorded every detail as she examined the power generation facility. 3 days had passed since their arrival, and each discovery made less sense than the last. The technology before her violated basic principles that had guided galactic civilization for thousands of years. The power core was a massive, brutal-looking device that seemed to have been assembled from spare parts. Thick cables ran everywhere, held in place by simple metal brackets. Warning signs in the alien language covered every surface. Everything about it suggested crude, dangerous engineering. Yet it was producing more energy than the most advanced Zephyrian reactors. "This is impossible," she muttered, taking detailed scanner readings. "The efficiency ratings are beyond theoretical maximums. The radiation containment shouldn't work with these materials. But it does work, and it's been running perfectly for who knows how long." Captain Vextar joined her in the facility, ducking under a low-hanging pipe that had been sized for the larger alien inhabitants. "What have you found?" "A complete contradiction of everything we know about energy production. Look at this." Kethra pointed to a section of the reactor. "They're using basic metal alloys for radiation shielding. Any competent engineer would tell you that's suicide. but somehow it's working better than our best containment materials. They moved to the next section, where Lieutenant Zixara was examining what appeared to be manufacturing equipment. The machines were enormous, built to handle materials that would require heavy industrial equipment for most species to manage. The manufacturing processes are just as strange, Zixara reported. They seem to prefer brute force solutions to elegant engineering. Where we would use precise molecular assembly, they heat metals to extreme temperatures and pound them into shape with massive hammers. Vextar examined a finished product from one of the machines. It was a simple tool, crude-looking and heavy, but when he tested its strength, the tool proved to be nearly indestructible. Their philosophy seems to be, build it strong enough that it never breaks, rather than our approach of building it precisely enough that it doesn't need to be strong. The exploration team spent the morning examining workshop after workshop. Each facility revealed the same pattern, technology that looked primitive but performed beyond expectations. The aliens had developed solutions that worked through pure stubborn determination, rather than elegant design. In one workshop, they found evidence of the aliens' problem-solving methods. Broken equipment sat next to repaired versions that had been modified with additional materials and reinforcements. Instead of replacing damaged items with identical copies, these beings had improved them. Look at this pattern, Kethra observed, scanning a repaired device. The original component failed, so they added more material and made it stronger. When that version had problems, they added even more reinforcement. They kept modifying and improving until it became something completely different from the original design. Trial and error engineering, Vextar noted, but taken to an extreme level. They don't seem to believe in theoretical limits. They discovered a storage area filled with what appeared to be failed experiments and abandoned projects. But even the failures revealed impressive engineering. Devices that hadn't worked as intended still demonstrated innovative solutions to complex problems. Ensign Thalix, the team's youngest member, called out from across the workshop. Sirs, you need to see this transportation system. They gathered around what was clearly a vehicle designed for moving through the colony. Like everything else, it was built for beings much larger and stronger than the Zephyrians. The propulsion system was a chemical combustion engine that burned liquid fuel in controlled explosions. They use explosions to move around? Zixara asked in disbelief. Apparently so, and look at these tire structures. Kethra pointed to circular objects made of some flexible material. They actually make contact with the ground surface for traction. No magnetic levitation, no gravity manipulation, just direct physical contact. Vextar studied the vehicle with growing amazement. It's so simple, but it would work in almost any environment. No complex electronics to fail. No need for prepared magnetic surfaces or gravity generators. Just an engine, wheels, and a steering mechanism. The afternoon brought more discoveries in what appeared to be a research facility. Here they found evidence of the aliens' scientific methods. Instead of the careful theoretical work that characterized Zephyrian research, these beings seemed to prefer direct experimentation. Laboratory after laboratory showed evidence of hands-on testing. Equipment had been built, tested to destruction, rebuilt with improvements and tested again. The aliens appeared to learn more from studying failures than successes. They have an interesting approach to scientific research, Kethra observed as she examined testing equipment. Rather than spending years in theoretical development, they build working prototypes immediately and learn by watching them fail. Fast. Iteration, Vexistar noted. Build it, break it, fix it better, repeat. It's crude but probably very effective for rapid development. The most shocking discovery came in a facility that appeared to be devoted to transportation technology. Here they found evidence that the aliens had developed faster-than-light travel, using methods that made no sense according to established physics. Their FTL drives were massive, inefficient-looking devices that appeared to brute force their way through space-time rather than elegantly manipulating it like Zephyrian technology. The mathematics they used were completely different from galactic standard equations. This shouldn't work, Kethra said, staring at the alien FTL equations displayed on a wall screen. They're ignoring half the variables that make faster-than-light travel possible. But according to these test logs, their drives work better than ours. How is that possible? I have no idea. It's like they found a completely different way to achieve the same result, a way that ignores our understanding of how the universe works. As evening approached, the team gathered to compare their findings. Each department had discovered the same pattern: technology that violated established principles, but worked better than it should. Everything about this civilization challenges our basic understanding of engineering and physics, Vextar summarized. They build things that shouldn't work, using methods that ignore established science and somehow achieve results that surpass our best technology. Maybe, suggested Thalix hesitantly, they come from a background that forced them to find different solutions. Their original environment might have required approaches that seem crude to us but work in conditions we've never encountered. Kethra nodded thoughtfully. That would explain the emphasis on strength and durability over efficiency and elegance. If they evolved in a harsh environment, they would have learned to build things that could survive under extreme conditions. But what kind of environment would produce this level of innovation? Vextar wondered. What could force a species to develop such unique approaches to technology? That night, as the Zephyrians rested in their ship, they realized they had only scratched the surface of the mysteries surrounding this colony. The technology they had examined was impressive, but it raised more questions than it answered. Who were these aliens? Where did they come from? What kind of world had forced them to develop such unusual solutions to common problems? Most importantly, where had they gone? And would the galaxy be ready when they encountered the rest of their civilization? The colony continued its automated operations around them, maintaining systems that had been designed to run for centuries without supervision. Somewhere in the databanks, the answers to their questions waited to be discovered. The central data repository stood at the heart of the colony like a massive monument to knowledge. Dr. Kethra approached the building with growing excitement and nervousness. For 5 days, they had been studying the technology and structures left behind by the mysterious aliens. Now they might finally learn who these beings were and where they had come from. The building was different from the others they had explored. Where most structures in the colony were purely functional, this one had decorative elements. Images were carved into the walls showing scenes of the aliens working together, building, exploring, and celebrating. The entrance was marked with symbols that repeated throughout the colony. This appears to be their most important building, Captain Vextar observed as they entered the main chamber. The construction is more elaborate and the security systems are more sophisticated. The interior was filled with data storage devices, display screens, and access terminals. Everything was built to accommodate the large alien physique, forcing the Zephyrians to use portable platforms to reach the controls. The systems were still active, maintaining vast libraries of information. Lieutenant Zixara worked at one of the terminals, trying to decode the alien language and access systems. The data structure is complex but logical. I'm beginning to understand their basic information organization. After several hours of careful work, they achieved their first breakthrough. Text began appearing on the display screens, accompanied by images and what appeared to be historical records. Success, Zixara announced. I have access to their historical databases. The translation program is starting to work. According to this, they call themselves humans. The first records they accessed showed the human homeworld. The Zephyrians stared in horror at the images displayed before them. The planet was a nightmare of extreme conditions that should have prevented any form of intelligent life from developing. Massive storms raged across continents, carrying winds that could destroy buildings. Geological activity split the ground and spewed molten rock into the air. The weather shifted between deadly heat and killing cold. Predatory animals filled every ecosystem, most of them large enough to hunt the humans themselves. This can't be their actual homeworld, Kethra whispered. Nothing could evolve intelligence under these conditions. The constant danger and environmental stress would prevent any species from developing advanced civilization. But the records continued, showing how humans had not just survived on this death world, but had thrived. They developed tools to hunt the predators that hunted them. They built shelters that could withstand the storms, They learned to predict and avoid the geological disasters that regularly reshaped their landscape. "Look at this," Vextar pointed to an image showing humans working in extreme heat near flowing lava. "They're actually using the volcanic activity for manufacturing purposes. They've turned the planet's deadliest features into industrial resources." The historical records revealed a species that had faced constant challenges and responded by becoming more adaptable, more innovative, and more determined. Natural disasters that would have driven any sensible species to extinction became opportunities for humans to develop new technologies and survival strategies. Their early history was filled with conflicts between different human groups. Wars, competitions, and struggles that might have weakened other species seemed to make humans stronger. They learned from each conflict, developing better strategies, improved technologies, and stronger cooperation methods. "They fight each other constantly," Zixara observed, reading through military history records. "But notice how they also cooperate. Even while fighting, they follow rules and maintain codes of behavior. And after conflicts, they often form alliances with former enemies." "Competitive cooperation," Kethra noted. "They challenge each other to become better, but they don't try to completely destroy their opponents. It's like they understand that having worthy opponents makes them stronger." The records showed how humans had gradually transformed their hostile homeworld. They diverted rivers, leveled mountains, and created vast agricultural areas where once only wasteland existed. They domesticated the dangerous predators, turning them into allies and companions. "This is incredible," Vextar said, studying images of the transformed human homeworld. "They didn't adapt to their environment. They adapted their environment to themselves. They rebuilt an entire planet to be more habitable." The technological development records revealed the same pattern they had observed in the colony. Humans preferred practical solutions over elegant theories. They built things that worked first, then improved them through constant testing and modification. Their approach to space travel followed the same philosophy. While other species had developed space technology gradually over thousands of years, humans had achieved spaceflight in a few centuries through rapid experimentation and improvement. "Look at these early space vehicle designs," Kethra pointed to historical technical drawings. "They're absolutely primitive, chemical rockets that barely reached orbit. But they kept improving them, making them bigger, more powerful, more reliable." The space exploration record showed humans spreading through their solar system with characteristic determination. They established colonies on planets and moons that other species would have considered uninhabitable. Each hostile environment became a new challenge to overcome. They colonized a planet with surface temperatures over 400 degrees, Zixara read from the records, and another one with methane rain and hydrocarbon lakes. They don't seem to believe in uninhabitable as a concept. The records revealed that humans viewed every problem as temporary. If something was too hot, they developed better cooling systems. If gravity was too strong, they built stronger structures and trained their bodies to handle the stress. If the atmosphere was poisonous, they created better filtration technology. Their approach to faster-than-light travel exemplified their practical philosophy. While other species had spent centuries perfecting elegant FTL theories, humans had built working drives through trial and error, accepting inefficiency in exchange for reliability. Their first FTL ships were basically flying workshops, Vextar observed, reading technical specifications. They carried enough spare parts and repair equipment to rebuild the entire vessel during flight. They assumed things would break and planned accordingly, but the most shocking discovery came when they accessed records about human expansion into the galaxy. The files revealed that humans had been exploring galactic space for decades, establishing colonies throughout the outer rim regions. They've been spreading across the galaxy while staying hidden from the established civilizations, Kethra realized. They've been systematically colonizing worlds that other species considered too dangerous or too remote to be worth claiming. The colonization record showed typical human behavior. Instead of competing with other species for the comfortable, easy worlds, they had claimed the challenging ones: desert planets, ice worlds, high radiation environments, unstable systems. Everywhere that other species avoided, humans had established thriving colonies. They're not trying to compete with us, Vextar understood finally. They're taking the worlds we don't want and turning them into successful colonies. They're expanding into areas where no one else bothers to go. The final records in the archive explained what had happened to this particular colony. The humans hadn't been driven away or faced any disaster. They had simply completed their mission and moved on to the next challenge. This colony had been established as a testing ground for large-scale terraforming technology. The humans had successfully transformed the hostile planet into a garden world, then automated all the systems to continue the work without supervision. They built this entire colony as an experiment, Kethra read from the final logs. They wanted to prove they could terraform a whole planet using automated systems. Once they succeeded, they left the machines running and moved on to terraform an entire solar system simultaneously. The archive's last entry was a message from the colony administrator. Phase 1 terraforming complete. All systems functioning within acceptable parameters. Automated expansion proceeding according to schedule. Colony ready for Phase 2 settlers. In approximately 50 standard years. Administration transferring to Kepler Station for multi-system terraforming project. Captain Vextar stared at the final message with growing realization. These humans hadn't just built a colony and abandoned it. They had built a self-sustaining terraforming operation and left it running like a simple household appliance while they moved on to even more ambitious projects. The question was no longer where the humans had gone. The question was how many other projects like this they had scattered across the galaxy, and what they were planning to do next. Captain Vextar spent the 6th day exploring the deepest levels of the human colony. The revelations from the archives had changed everything they thought they understood about these mysterious beings. Now he needed to see the full scope of what the humans had accomplished here. Deep underground, massive machines continued their work in chambers that stretched beyond the reach of their portable lights. The scale of the operation was breathtaking. Automated systems processed raw materials, manufactured components, and maintained equipment without any supervision. It was like discovering a vast industrial civilization that needed no inhabitants. Captain, Dr. Kethra called from across the chamber. You need to see these manufacturing specifications. The humans aren't just terraforming this planet. They're preparing it for something much larger. She led him to a monitoring station that displayed the colony's complete operational plan. The screens showed projected timelines, resource allocations, and construction schedules that extended centuries into the future. According to these projections, the automated systems will continue expanding the colony for the next 200 years, Kethra explained. They're building infrastructure for a population of over 10 million beings. 10 million? Vextar studied the numbers with disbelief. This planet could barely support the few thousand humans who were here when they left. That's because they're not just terraforming the surface. Look at this. Kethra brought up geological surveys showing the planet's transformation. They're modifying the core temperature, adjusting the magnetic field, and redesigning the atmospheric composition. Kentiu, 50 years. This will be a completely different world. Lieutenant Zixara joined them at the monitoring station, carrying data tablets filled with information from other sections of the underground complex. The manufacturing facilities are producing colonization equipment for dozens of different planetary environments. They're not just planning to expand here. They're using this colony as a supply base for further expansion. The deeper they went, the more impressive the operation became. Automated mining systems extracted resources from the planet's crust and processed them into construction materials. Manufacturing centers produced everything from basic tools to complex technological components. Transportation systems moved materials through underground networks that connected every part of the colony. The humans built this entire operation to run without them, Vextar realized. They created a self-sustaining industrial complex and left it running like a simple household appliance. In the deepest levels, they discovered the colony's most ambitious project. A massive construction facility building what appeared to be starship components. The parts were enormous, far larger than anything needed for the vessels they had seen. In the archives, these are components for ships designed to carry entire populations, Kethra observed, scanning the construction specifications. colony ships built for journeys that might take decades or centuries, or ships designed to carry the equipment needed for terraforming entire star systems, Zixara added, reading from a technical manual. Look at these payload specifications. These vessels are designed to transport industrial equipment on a scale that most civilizations would consider impossible. They spent hours exploring the construction facility, trying to understand the scope of human ambitions. The ships being built were not elegant or efficient by galactic standards. Like everything else humans created, they were built for durability and functionality over aesthetic appeal. But the scale was overwhelming. Each ship was large enough to carry the population and equipment needed to establish multiple colonies simultaneously. The humans weren't planning to expand slowly and carefully like other galactic civilizations. They were planning to spread across vast areas of space in coordinated waves. "Captain," Thalix called from across the facility, "I've found their navigation databases. You need to see this." The navigation system revealed the true scope of human expansion. Star charts showed human colonies scattered across dozens of star systems, all in regions that established galactic civilizations had ignored or avoided. "They're everywhere," Vextar whispered, studying the colony locations. High radiation systems, binary star systems, planets with extreme gravity or hostile atmospheres. They're systematically colonizing every world that other species consider uninhabitable. "And look at the communication logs," Thalix added, bringing up data streams from other colonies. "They're all still active, all still expanding. The humans have created a network of self-sustaining colonies across hundreds of light-years of space. The communication logs revealed regular data exchanges between human colonies, sharing technological improvements, resource allocations, and expansion plans. Each colony was developing new solutions to local challenges, then sharing those solutions with the entire network. They're not just expanding randomly, Kethra realized. This is coordinated expansion on a galactic scale. Each colony is designed to support further expansion into new regions. The log showed human colonies in radiation-soaked systems developing better shielding technology, then sharing those improvements with colonies facing different challenges. Iceworld colonies shared heating and insulation innovations. High-gravity colonies developed stronger materials and construction techniques. "It's like they're turning the galaxy's most hostile environments into research laboratories," Zixara observed. "Every challenge they overcome makes them better prepared for the next challenge." But the most shocking discovery came when they accessed the humans' long-term planning files. The expansion they were witnessing was just the beginning. The humans had developed plans for systematic exploration and colonization of the entire galaxy. They're planning to terraform and colonize every habitable system in the galaxy. Vextar read from the planning documents, not just the easy worlds. Every world that could potentially support life with the right modifications. The timeline was ambitious beyond anything the established galactic civilizations had ever attempted. While other species expanded slowly, over thousands of years, carefully selecting only the most suitable worlds, humans planned to claim and transform entire regions of space within centuries. "They don't think like us," Kethra observed. "We see expansion as a gradual process of finding suitable worlds and adapting to them. They see expansion as transforming unsuitable worlds into suitable ones. And they have the technology to do it," Zixara added, reviewing the terraforming equipment specifications. "These automated systems can transform almost any planet into a habitable world, given enough time and resources." The final piece of the puzzle came from the colony's administrative files. The humans who had established this colony weren't refugees or explorers seeking new homes. They were engineers and planners working on the largest construction project in galactic history. This colony was never meant to be permanent. Vexitar understood finally. It was a staging ground, a testing site, and a manufacturing center for something much larger. The files revealed that the humans were implementing an expansion strategy they called Project Genesis. The goal was to establish self-sustaining colonies throughout the galaxy, each one designed to continue expansion without supervision from the homeworld. They're not trying to build an empire, Kethra realized. They're trying to seed the galaxy with human civilization. Every colony is designed to eventually become independent and continue expanding on its own. The strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of trying to maintain control over vast distances, the humans were creating autonomous colonies that could survive and expand without support. Each colony would eventually spawn new colonies, creating an exponential expansion pattern. In a few thousand years, there could be human colonies in every system in the galaxy, Vextar said, studying the projection models, not through conquest or competition with other species, but by claiming and transforming the worlds that no one else wants. As they prepared to leave the underground complex, the exploration team realized they had discovered something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans weren't just another species expanding into space. They were implementing a systematic transformation of the galaxy itself. The question was no longer what the humans were planning to do. The question was whether the established galactic civilizations were ready for the changes that were already underway. Above them, the colony's automated systems continued their work, building toward a future that would reshape the galaxy in ways that no one had ever imagined possible. Captain Vextar stood on the observation deck of the Silent Current as his ship prepared to leave the human colony. 7 days of exploration had fundamentally changed his understanding of the galaxy and the Zephyrians' place in it. The systematic documentation of everything they had discovered filled the ship's entire database. Behind them, the colony continued its automated operations. Manufacturing facilities produced construction materials, terraforming systems modified the atmosphere and climate, and communication arrays maintained contact with dozens of other human settlements scattered across the outer rim. All without a single human present to oversee the work. "Final systems check complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Zixara. "All data has been secured and transmitted to Zephyrian Command. The Galactic Council should receive our preliminary report within 6 standard days." Dr. Kethra joined them at the observation window, carrying the last of her research materials. "I've completed my analysis of their expansion patterns. Based on the colony locations and resource allocation data, I estimate there are at least 200 active human settlements, with more being established regularly. 200 colonies that we know about," Vextar corrected. "The humans appear to value operational security. They may have many more settlements that don't communicate with this network." The implications were staggering. While the established galactic civilizations had spent millennia carefully expanding through the most habitable systems, humans had been quietly colonizing everywhere else. They had turned the galaxy's most challenging environments into thriving settlements. "Sir," called Ensign Thalix from the communication station, "I'm detecting new signals from deeper and unexplored space. The transmission patterns match human technology." Vextar studied the signal analysis. The transmissions were coming from multiple locations, all in regions that galactic surveys had classified as uninhabitable or too dangerous for colonization. The humans had been active in those areas for decades. "Plot those signal sources on the navigation display," he ordered. When the display updated, it showed a pattern that sent chills down his spine. Human colonies formed a rough sphere expanding outward from the galactic rim, with this settlement near the edge of their explored territory. They're not expanding randomly into empty space, he realized. They're systematically claiming every system that other civilizations have ignored. They're taking the entire outer galaxy while we focus on the habitable core systems. As the Silent Current engaged its faster-than-light drive, Vextar reviewed the message he would send to the Galactic Council. How could he explain what they had discovered? How could he make the Council understand that humanity represented something completely unprecedented? The humans didn't fit into any of the established categories for galactic civilizations. They weren't conquerors seeking to dominate other species. They weren't traders seeking economic advantage. They weren't philosophers seeking knowledge. They were builders on a scale that defied comprehension. "Captain," Kethra said quietly, "I've been thinking about the implications of what we've discovered. The humans aren't just expanding into space. They're implementing a complete transformation of galactic civilization." "Explain." "Every species in the galaxy has developed within certain limitations. We accept that some worlds are uninhabitable, some systems are too dangerous, some projects are too ambitious to attempt. The humans don't accept any of those limitations. Vextar nodded slowly. They see challenges where we see impossibilities. Exactly. And they have the technology and determination to overcome challenges that would stop other civilizations. In a few centuries, they'll have claimed and transformed more territory than the rest of galactic civilization combined. The journey back to Zephyrian space would take several weeks, giving the crew time to analyze everything they had learned. The more they studied the human data, the more impressive their achievements became. The humans had developed solutions to problems that other species had never even attempted to solve. They had created technologies that worked through brute force and determination rather than elegant theory. They had established colonies in environments that should have been impossible to survive. Most importantly, they had done it all while remaining hidden from the established galactic civilizations. They had expanded across vast regions of space, without competing with other species for resources or territory. The question, Zixura observed during one of their analysis sessions, is what happens when we make contact with them officially. How will the galactic community react to discovering that humans have been terraforming the galaxy while we weren't paying attention? It was a crucial question. The established galactic civilizations had spent thousands of years developing complex diplomatic relationships, trade agreements, and territorial boundaries. The discovery that an unknown species had been systematically claiming vast regions of previously ignored space would disrupt everything. Some species will see them as a threat, Vextar predicted. The idea of a civilization that doesn't accept natural limitations will be terrifying to races that have built their entire philosophy around accepting constraints. Others might see them as an opportunity, Kethra added. Human terraforming technology could make uninhabitable worlds accessible to species that could never colonize them independently. But there was a deeper issue that Vextar kept returning to as they traveled home. The humans represented a completely different approach to existence. Where other galactic civilizations had developed sophisticated cultures focused on philosophy, art, and intellectual achievement, humans appeared to be focused on constant improvement and expansion. They didn't seem interested in reaching a stable, comfortable state of civilization. Every challenge overcome became the foundation for tackling even greater challenges. Every successful colony became a base for establishing more colonies. Every technological breakthrough enabled more ambitious projects. They're not trying to find their place in the galaxy, he realized during one quiet watch period. They're trying to reshape the galaxy to accommodate their vision of what it should be. The implications were profound. If humans continued their expansion at the current rate, they would eventually encounter every other galactic civilization, not as invaders or competitors, but as neighbors who had transformed the spaces between established civilizations. 3 weeks into their journey home, they detected signs that human expansion was already affecting established space. Long-range sensors picked up unusual activity in systems at the edge of Nexari territory. When they investigated, they found evidence of human terraforming operations in previously uninhabited systems adjacent to Nexari colonies. They're not avoiding us, Thalix observed as they analyzed the sensor data. They're expanding right up to the boundaries of established space, which means contact is inevitable, Vextar concluded. The question is whether that contact will be peaceful or hostile. Based on everything they had learned about human behavior, Vextar believed the contact would be peaceful. Humans didn't seem interested in conquering or displacing other civilizations. They seemed content to claim the territory that no one else wanted. But peaceful didn't mean without consequences. The discovery that humans had been active throughout the galaxy would force every established civilization to reconsider their assumptions about expansion, technology, and what was possible. As the silent current approached Zephyrian space, Vextar prepared his final report for the Galactic Council. The message was simple but would change everything. Humanity had been discovered and they were already everywhere. The colony they had investigated was just one small example of human achievement. Across the galaxy, automated systems continued, terraforming projects that would create habitable worlds for generations yet to be born. Manufacturing facilities produced the equipment needed for even more ambitious expansion. Communication networks coordinated efforts across vast distances of space. The humans had left them a gift, the knowledge that the galaxy was far more malleable than anyone had imagined. Worlds that seemed uninhabitable could be transformed. Challenges that seemed impossible could be overcome. Limitations that seemed absolute could be transcended. The question now was what the established galactic civilizations would do with that knowledge, and whether they were ready to share the galaxy with a species that refused to accept the impossible.